Yo, what's up? My name is Tim and I make coffee videos sometimes. This here is my Varia vs6 coffee grinder and I've had it for about 4 months now. Today I have a bit of an off day, a bit of some free time, so I thought I would film a video sharing my thoughts on this grinder, my story of how I ended up getting this grinder, and some of my experiences with it. So that's what we're gonna do today. Let's go! So we're gonna get started on how I ended up getting this grinder. It's gonna be a little bit of a story time. So I've been a coffee enthusiast, a home brewer, a home barista if you will, for about 8 years now. And all across those years, I had primarily been brewing filter coffee, pour over coffee. That's my favorite way to drink coffee. And for filter coffee, I have been primarily brewing with a hand grinder. And the thought that I had for many years is that if I were to assign any set amount of money into purchasing a grinder for coffee, I would want as much of that value, much of that amount to go into maximizing the performance of the grinder. The thought that I had was that if I were to purchase an electric grinder, inevitably some of that money would be gone into paying for the electronics and the design of the electric grinder rather than sheer performance from the grinder. And so that's why I've always opted to use a hand grinder. So for the past 3 years, maybe I have been brewing with this espresso K Max hand grinder. It's a very good grinder. It has served me very good filter coffee and it's been a joy to use, especially with this easy top adjustment dial. In my mind, the only time that I would ever need an electric grinder would be when I explore brewing espresso at home. Because I've had the joy of trying to grind for espresso using a hand grinder and it is not a joy. It's a minute and a half of really that's not so fun, and I know that if I were to ever explore espresso, I would want to have an electric grinder. Nonetheless, throughout the years, like any good coffee enthusiast, I had been watching the videos, reading the Reddits, exploring the forums, and drinking the Kool-Aid about the different grinders that were being released on the market. So the advent of the Niche Zero, which revolutionized the home barista space, single dosing became such a big thing. There was the DF64 with its massive value proposition and how they use 64mm flat burrs, which was very sought after. So yeah, through the years I did pay attention to all the videos and followed what was being released and what was available on the market. And so over time I did develop my own preferences or tastes for what electric grinders should be and do, and I began to have some sort of criteria in my mind that if I were to ever purchase an electric grinder, what kind of things would I want it to have. So here are a few things that I wanted to find in an electric grinder if I were to purchase one. Number one, it had to be a flat burr grinder because I already had very high performing conical hand grinders in use already, and I thought flat burrs would be the way to go if I were to ever get an electric grinder. Number two, I think I wanted their burrs to be interchangeable. We live in a market where there are a lot of different burrs that are available, and people have done a lot of research into burr geometry which create different kinds of cup profiles, and I wanted to be able to play with that. I wanted the option to be able to play with that if I wanted to. The third thing that I wanted would be variable RPM control. I mean, that's an additional variable that people can control. Whether brewing for espresso or filter, you can adjust the RPM. That's something I wanted in my grinder as well. Lastly, I wanted for the grinder to be beautiful. I wanted it to look good. I wanted it to look good on my coffee bar and an aesthetic that I actually like and enjoy looking at. I think that was very important to me. And so enter the Varia vs6 right here. This grinder checks all the boxes that I described. It's variable RPM, it's flat burrs, it's interchangeable burrs, it's very beautiful. I really like how it looks. So actually, why I purchased this grinder was that I had been waiting or in anticipation of receiving the Meticulous Espresso Kickstarter project. And as we might know, that has been delayed for many months now, and we're not sure when we're gonna get it, but one can only hope that it will be soon. But I did go ahead and purchase this grinder because it checked all my boxes and it seemed to be performing very well. And if you have watched my recent videos, you would know that I recently acquired a Rocket Apartamento espresso machine, and so this grinder grinder has been able to serve me well doing both filter and espresso. So actually I did consider some of the other options available on the market. I did think about the DF64 Gen 2, I did think about the DF64V, I did think about the Timor Sculptor. I think at the end of the day, when I considered all of my criteria in its entirety, then this one came out on top. With the DF64 Gen 2, I think there wasn't variable RPM, also did not look as nice as the Varia vs6. I did think that the DF64V was very attractive for some time, but after a while I thought that its design, and especially the fact that it had that wooden riser on which you put the catch cup on, I didn't like that so much. With the Timor Sculptor, I just did not particularly like the workflow. Specifically, it had its RPM control dial at the back of the grinder, and its dosing cup was really long and skinny in a manner that I didn't like, and overall I don't really love that sewing machine aesthetic that the Timor Sculptor has. So I did like something slimmer, something taller, and that's why I went with the Varia vs6. So up next, I'm just going to take you through a few of the things that come included with the Varia vs6. So the Varia vs6 actually comes with this massive flight case, and many people think it's quite a bit of an overkill, but I think from the company's perspective, they wanted their grinder to be able to travel, be carried around to conventions and stuff like that. For me, as a customer, I just think it's kind of cool that I get a flight case that I can use to store whatever else, I guess. I think it's cool, I like it, but let's explore it. Let's flat case open. So the main grinder would be stored in this big cavity over here, and around this is where the power cable and the other accessories were stored. First up, we have the bellows. These are the bellows that come with the grinder. I personally don't use these bellows very much at all because I find them a bit too tall. I think when you put them on top of the grinder, it looks a little bit ugly. But that's just my personal perspective. I mostly use the grinder with a smaller set of bellows or without bellows at all. This here is the magnetic catch cup that comes with the grinder. It's very nice. It's an all metal build with a magnetic bottom that snaps quite nicely into the grinder. This right here is the chute from which grounds come out, and this is attachable to the grinder via magnets. The magnets here attach it to the grinder, and it also works as a knocker, which can be knocked like that. A few other smaller accessories that the grinder comes with is a brush. This is a brush that I haven't really used at all. It also comes with a small RDT spray bottle that is quite small and black and sleek. So it looks quite good, but I use my own, so I leave this in as well. These are tools for removing and replacing the burrs. I have tried it before and it actually works quite well. It's very simple. It's something like this. You hold it in place and then you unscrew. So these two work in that way together. They've also included a small replacement rubber feet for the grinder by 3M. And these are shims, springs and screws for replacing different parts of the grinder in case you lose them. So I thought it's nice that they include this. Last but not least, we do have the Varia vs6 manual. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to read manuals because it's just like paperwork or whatever, but at least for me personally, I think it's interesting to read about how the manufacturers are talking about their own product and what they want you to know. So I did give this a read through. I found that the most important portion to read through, or the most helpful, was the grind settings chart, and this managed to help me get started on what grind sizes to start, whether for espresso or for pour over coffee. So that's the manual. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Everything that's included in the Varia vs6 flat case. Right now, we're going to brew some coffee using the Varia vs6, both on espresso and filter. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to brew some of this Colombian coffee that my friend gave me. This is from Glitch in Japan. Colombia Popayan Santuaro. It's supposed to be tasting like lemon tea, herb, grapefruit. It's a washed bourbon. I will do 16 grams of coffee. Alright, let's show you how we grind with the Varia vs6. So I'm using these bellows. I think they were created for the Niche Zero, but they have a smaller profile and I like that there. So we turn it on with this button over here.
And then we can adjust the RPM by rotating the dial. I'll be grinding with about 700 RPM. I gotta set my grind size first. So rotating this way will reach 0. So that's 0 point. And I will do one full rotation away from 0. And to number between 0 and 1, I will go to about number 7. Oh, it turned off cause... Yep, that's the auto turn off feature, totally intended. The auto turn off feature is when there aren't any more beans left inside and it will turn off. So let's turn it back on. And I will slow feed my beans. Alright, so that's done. I think I will give it some bellows. And so these are the grinds. Relatively fluffy. No clumping for filter grinds per se. I'm gonna brew with the origami dripper. And the filter paper I like to use is this Cafet Abaca filter papers. Coffee grinds go in and magnetic. Gonna bloom to about 45 grams. I do like to swirl my bloom to about half the volume here. That's done. Very nice. Okay, on to espresso. For espresso, we're gonna be brewing something that a friend roasted. So this is a relatively medium to dark roast. I will do 18 grams of coffee. For this, I will go to about 1,200 and grind size of about 0.2.8. Done, so I'll use the bellows and the knocker, turn it off. So these are the grounds that are coming out of the Varia vs6 ground for espresso fine. If you can tell, there are some clumps going on, but I suppose nothing that WDT can't fix. The paper in, dosing funnel, coffee. A distribute, tamp. Alright, puck screen. And pull. That's my shot of espresso, looking quite pretty. So here I've got filter coffee and espresso, both pulled and brewed using the Varia vs6. Now maybe we can take a moment to talk about the burrs that Varia has included in this coffee grinder. From the POV workflow earlier, you would be able to tell that the burrs included in this grinder are able to perform for both filter coffee and espresso. Now, I am not a burr geek by any means. In fact, I can't say that I have tested a variety of burrs before, but the coffees that are coming out of this grinder after having seasoned and used it for a few months now, I can say I am quite satisfied with its performance. And this is having come from an Easypresso K-Max hand grinder. In terms of filter coffee, I think I do taste a little bit more bitterness and a bit lower sweetness in the coffee compared to the Easypresso K-Max. And I think that might be reasonable because for espresso, the grinder needs to produce a bit more fines so that it can create enough resistance for the espresso puck. But nonetheless, that is not a deal breaker by any means. I have still been very much enjoying the filter coffee that has come out of this electric grinder. For espresso, I will hold back on my opinions because I think I do not have any other point of reference or any other grinder that I have used for brewing espresso for an extended period that would give me any confidence to comment on the quality of espresso coming out of this grinder. But I have enjoyed my espressos. That's all I would say. Now on Varia's website, they do have a series of burrs that can be replaced in this grinder. While the stock burrs shipped are 58mm flat burrs, Varia also sells conical burrs that can fit into this grinder as well. For me, my personal interest is in flat burr grinders.
After having watched some videos, read the Reddit and Varia's own website about the different descriptors, about the different burrs that they have, unfortunately I think that the jury is still out on which burrs do what better, or what kind of profiles are coming out of the different burrs. But at least based on what I have seen and what I have read, or different people that I have spoken to who do own these burrs, the ones I would be interested in possibly acquiring would be the Supernova Gold Titanium burrs, the golden ones, and these ones are supposed to be really good for filter coffee to get a high clarity kind of profile, similar to the SSP multi-purpose burrs, I think, and the Hypernova Ultra Plasma burrs, because people are saying that these produce the highest sweetness in coffee, and actually sweetness in coffee is what I really enjoy and would pursue. But unless Varia comes up with a super mega sale or a few $100s just appears in my bank account, I will continue to enjoy the stock burrs that Varia has included in the VS6. Now, other than the fact that it checks all my boxes in what I was looking for in an electric grinder, there are a few things that I really like about the Varia VS6. The first thing is that I think it is built incredibly well. Everything is rock solid, it's really hard, it's heavy, and it feels really premium to the touch. Each day as I interact with it and use it to grind my coffee, I feel like it's a premium product. I don't feel like it has cheaped out in any way for the amount that I've paid for it. The second thing is that it is incredibly easy to dial in, to assemble and disassemble. It feels thought out. It feels like someone has thought about the experience of somebody using the grinder, and it's very easy to navigate. Just one button, one top dial to adjust the grind size. Apart from that, it just works. The other thing is that its burrs are automatically aligned, and that means no playing around with the alignment of the flat burrs, which is really important. No excessive using aluminum foil, using the marker test for checking for alignment. None of that for this grinder. And I really like that. I did not enjoy the prospect of playing around with my flat burrs until they were aligned. When I was doing research on flat burr grinders, that's what a lot of people really struggled with and spent a lot of time doing, and I'm thankful that I don't have to do that with this grinder. The last thing that I love about the Varia VS6 is how it looks. Okay, I've already said this, but I just really think it looks really good. Enough said, I guess. Now moving on to the things that I don't actually like about the Varia VS6. I think overall my experience has been very positive, but there are a few small things that I think affect how I feel about this grinder. For a start, I mentioned this earlier, the bellows that are provided in the grinder are not very nice. When you put them on, it looks like this, and it really significantly adds to the height of the grinder, and I don't think the aesthetic looks particularly elegant or fitting for the rest of the grinder. I'm sure it works well, but it doesn't look very good. I think that the grinder looks way better without the bellows like that. The second thing that I'm not so big a fan of about the Varia VS6 is that grounds coming out for espresso are a kinda clumpy. Now, I don't have a lot of experience with many other home espresso grinders, but I did notice that the grounds that were coming out when I was grinding at Espresso Fine were clumpy, and I did have to put in a bit of additional effort into doing the WDT process so that the clumps would be broken up. Now, I have used commercial grinders before which are really not clumpy. And it's with great pleasure that the grounds come out really fluffy and ready to be distributed and tamped, but this did not give me that sort of experience. So this is not a deal breaker by any means, but it is, I thought, worth mentioning. It is not the case where it is completely fluffy and free. I don't know if this is a case where I have really high expectations of a home espresso grinder, because I haven't quite had a lot of experience using other espresso grinders for the home, but I just thought it was worth mentioning anyway. Another thing I noticed when using this grinder is that after it has ground through a dose of beans, the sound that it is making will be louder and of a higher pitch. And to reset or to remove that sound, I would have to rotate the grind adjustment dial until the 0 point before returning to the original grind size, and that sound would go away. So just to demonstrate what I mean, here we have the grinder and we're going to turn it on. And it's at 700 RPM. I'm going to zero the grinder. So that's 0.
And I'm gonna go to a pour over setting, which maybe would be around here. If you note, the sound of the grinder right now is very, very silent. Not very much in the way of sound at all, and I'm gonna throw in a few beans. So it has ground through the beans, and you will note that the sound is quite a lot more prominent. And this sound will intensify whenever I change the grind size. The only way to get rid of the sound is to zero the grinder again. And so after changing it to a finer setting, microfines come out of the chute, and now the grinder is back to being silent. So that's just something I noted while using this grinder.
After checking online and speaking to a couple of people, I have come to learn that this is normal flat burr grinder behavior, and it is created by microfines that are stuck at the burrs. And so by returning to zero, I will be completely grinding through it and removing those microfines so that the sound wouldn't be around anymore. And I have learned that this is normal behavior, and it's very much present in other flat burr grinders as well. Again, this is just something that I noticed and something new that I learned when I was using this grinder. And with that, I come to the conclusion of this video. I think overall, I'm really satisfied with how my purchase of my first flat burr and electric grinder has gone. I have enjoyed using the Varia vs6. I have enjoyed the coffees that have come out of it, and I look forward to using it for many years to come. Honestly, I'm a little bit disappointed with how it hasn't gotten as much attention or traction as I think it should, considering all of the pros that I've spoken about earlier. But I think if I could wager a guess, it probably has to do with the fact that Varia is using its own proprietary 58mm burrs rather than the industry popular 64mm burrs that are more widely available to everybody. I think most people who are looking at flat burr grinders are looking to play around with 64mm flat burrs, and so the 58mm proprietary blind burrs by Varia are not particularly attractive. But to me, it is, and I'm enjoying it. Have a good day.